faster than a speeding typewriter, more powerful than a printing press, able to speak over tall buildings in a single sound. Look, up on the dial!
It's a conservative!
It's a liberal! It's Supermouth! Yes, it's Supermouth, strange visitor from the past with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal talk show hosts. Supermouth, who can change the course of local politics, bend ears with his bare mouth, and who, disguised as Mike Wiley, mild-mannered reporter for a great metropolitan radio show, fights a never-ending battle for truth, justice, and the American way.
Good morning. I am Mike Wiley, evil radio talk show host, now evil podcaster. I don't like using the term podcaster, but everybody is, so I thought, well, if I'm going to get a Mike Wiley sign, let's say podcast. Let's fall in line with the rest of them. So, I'm going to try to make these videos real short. The reason being is that I've already done a lot of this work. I've been doing the show since about, I'm going to say October of 2022. So it's been 2 years. I've been doing the show for 2 years. And the name of the show is Upon Further Review. We called it America's Court of Public Opinion, and I was presenting stuff based on the legal aspects of what was going on because we have criminals in these countries. They hide in an organization known as the Democratic Party. And they commit crimes all the time, especially against the American people. But they haven't faced judgment yet, but that day's coming. All right, so we're in a bit of a pickle. Our country is at war. We've been at war for quite a while. But we don't know that we're at war because we do not recognize the enemy as the enemy. And that's the Democratic Party. They are the enemy. They've proven it to us time and time again. And I'm going to help you along with some things today to straighten you out to know where everything is, because my guess is that either civil war begins on Monday, November 11th, 2024, or the Great Divorce begins on November 11th, 2024. And I'm going to explain the two to you. But first, I'm going to hit you with some actual documented proof. All right, first of all, you may have heard me say several times that Donald Trump is still president. I'm going to give you the proof of that right now. This is the congressional record, January 6, 2021. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's when the Democrats made believe that Trump was attacking the Capitol and all that other lying bullshit that they've been trying to get away with. There's 1,000 Americans sitting in jail right now on phony actions in courts based on a law that doesn't apply. And the Supreme Court has already ruled that it doesn't apply. The Supreme Court on Friday ruled in favor of a former police officer who is seeking to throw out an obstruction charge for joining the Capitol riot on January 6, 2021, in a ruling that could benefit former President Donald Trump. The justices on a 6-3 vote. 6-3 vote, Mike. Who voted against this? Would that have been the Democrats? Yeah, the Democrats. Anyway, so it says the statute in question is U.S. Code 1512, carries a prison sentence of up to 20 years. The only problem is that it has to do with obstructing an official proceeding with regard to documentation. And the 1,000 people that were arrested weren't carrying documents from the government on their possession when they were arrested or when they were in Washington. So this gets thrown out, and it gets thrown out. And the nice part about it is, for those of you that are Republicans like me, but I'm a populist. I'm a populist nationalist like Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon is actually the only other person I know on radio that refers to himself as a populist nationalist, but I am too. I've been one since 1993. And just for your advice, in 1994, when I ran for U.S. Senate, I did start a campaign known as America First. But it wasn't the kind of America First that you're seeing here. because my America First program was actually to build industry in the inner cities of America first. Okay? Build and start making profit and income and building people's wealth in the inner cities first, because they're the people who are worse off. Get them, start moving them up the economic ladder, setting these people free from the Democrats. That was America First. And I was running as a Democrat, but I was running as a populist Democrat. And, everybody loved my campaign except Hillary Rodham Clinton. And she came to make sure that I didn't win the primary, because polls already showed me defeating Connie Mack, because 1 million Democrat gun owners, who are now 1 million Republican gun owners, were going to vote for me in the general election, not Connie Mack. And Hillary Clinton could not afford to let me, an American populist, get into the U.S. Senate, especially with my gift of gab. Starting Monday, November 11th, will either be A, the beginning of the presidency of Donald Trump and the Great Divorce, or it will be beginning the continuation of Islamic terrorist Democrat Marxists with Kamala Harris, the dumbbell, the dumbest person on the planet they're going to put in as president. Holy shit. And then we're going to go to war. The Civil War will begin, because this shit, we're done with this shit. We're done with this shit. There, that's my message. We're done with this shit. So if Trump wins, then we can go through the process of divorce. If Trump doesn't win, then we go through civil war. It's that simple. We're going to rise up and no longer be slaves to these assholes who steal all our money, spend it at will, and then fly in millions of immigrants, illegal ones, and pay them all this money while people in North Carolina are starving and they're homeless and they can't get any help from the federal government? What the hell does that mean? Well, Mike, it means we don't have a federal government. That's exactly right. We don't. We don't. Okay, so I'm going to go through this quick. I got some things I'm going to hit you with just to give you some information here and understand where we're at. Okay, so on January 6, 2021, Donald Trump was not reelected as president of the United States. Joe Biden was not elected president of the United States. Therefore, Donald Trump is still president of the United States. And we go to the congressional record to give us proof. Mr. Vice President, parliamentary inquiry. The Vice President, this is Mike Pence, the gentleman from Virginia will state his parliamentary inquiry. Mr. Griffith, Mr. Vice President, in order to follow the Speaker's, that's Nancy Pelosi, instructions that only a limited number of people be on the floor, may I ask how one would make an objection or make a parliamentary inquiry in the future if you're not on the floor but in the gallery? And then Mike Pence, in his criminal operation, under Section 18 of Title III United States Code, debate is not permitted in the joint session. It's not debate. It's not debate. So we have already had a ruling from a federal judge in Texas that the $1.7 trillion Inflation Screw Us Act was passed illegally because there was not a quorum. Okay? We understand that there's got to be a quorum. So therefore, we have proof there was not a quorum on the floor when all this shit was taking place. They didn't want it to take place anyways. But what that dumb bitch Pelosi did was she kept Trump as president. Because this issue didn't occur. There was no quorum. Therefore, anything they say they did on January 6, 2021 is null and void. But for some reason, nobody has the cojones to go after it. Why, I don't know. United States House Select Committee on the January 6th attack. The United States House Select Committee to investigate the January 6th attack. It was not an attack. Okay? It wasn't attacked by the FBI. The FBI did lead the attack. They led the process. But we're not supposed to know that because they don't want us to know it. After refusing to concede the 2020 U.S. presidential election and perpetuating false and disproven claims of widespread voter fraud, which have now been proven.
You mean Trump was right?
Then President Donald Trump summoned a mob of protesters. A mob of protesters to the Capitol as the electoral votes were being counted. No, they weren't being counted. There was no plan to count them because there were 6 objections to the 6 fraudulent elections in the 6 states that committed open election fraud on mail-in ballots. Okay? I'm going to give you that next proof in a second. Donald Trump is still legally president of the United States. I'll take that to my grave. Someday we'll say,
Hey, Mike was right.
okay, Biden puts Harris in charge of border. This is March 24th, 2021. Wait a minute, March 24th, 2021. So you're saying within 2 months, within 60 days of these 2 phonies taking over the White House, they're not acting president, they're not president, they're not vice president, because they weren't elected. They were not elected. But Biden, acting like he knows what he's doing, puts Harris in charge of the border crisis. Harris, of course, does an excellent job, and only 20 million illegals come into the country. Why? First question, why? Why is it necessary for the Democrats to steal elections? Why is it necessary for Democrats to assassinate Republican presidents? And why is it necessary for Democrats to assassinate Democrat presidents? The one Democrat president in this discussion is John F. Kennedy. Okay, he was not going to commit to the war in Asia, therefore he had to be killed. Plus, he wasn't going to put LBJ in as his running mate in '64. LBJ found that out, and he had Kennedy killed. What do we know is the law? Oh, I'm sorry, it's right here. Let me read it to you. U.S. Code 18 U.S. Code 611, voting by aliens. Fuck no! It shall be unlawful. What's that mean? For an alien to vote in any election held solely or in part for the purpose of electing a candidate for the office of president, vice president, presidential elector, member of the Senate, member of the House, or a delegate from the District of Columbia, or resident commission.
Really? So in other words,
That judge, the Democrat idiot judge who just said, oh, you're going to put those illegals back on the voter rolls, she's violating law. She's no longer a judge. She's been proven to act criminally by violating the law on her own. She's no longer a judge. Get her out of here. Oh, wow. Gee, Mike, you know, it's amazing. It's amazing how you find shit. Okay. Just for you to know, because this is the background of everything. Who's behind all this bullshit that the Democrats love to pull every election cycle? Well, let's see. What is the problem that the Democrats can't live with? Oh, yeah, they can't live with this guy Trump as president. Protect democracy. is a nonprofit organization based in the United States. A nonpartisan group, bullshit. Protect Democracy seeks to check what it believes are authoritarian attacks on the U.S. democracy.
Authoritarians? What is that?
Defeating the authoritarian playbook. Our strategy. We protect free and fair elections regardless of who wins. Bullshit! That's a lie. Oh, look, they're already planning to steal 2024. Remember, just like Bill Belichick, the Democrats like to put the defense out first on the game. So, in other words, if you're going to steal an election, set up the defense and counterattack before it even happens. Okay? That's why they were so successful in covering this dog shit known as the 2020 election, which is still fraudulent, still hasn't completed, and therefore Donald Trump is legally state president. I don't know why they're not going after it. Maybe I'm missing something, but I don't know. Subverting 2024, Part 1, Deceive. How election deniers are lying about. Okay, before I say this to you, this is written by an escaped lunatic. I won't mention her name so she doesn't sue me, even though I don't have any money to be sued. Like I'm not worth $145 million from Rudy. How election deniers are lying about non-citizen voting. Oh, yeah. It's happening again. Just like in the 2020 election, which was defrauded, when conspiracies about mail-in voting and faulty voting machines, you mean the same things happen now.
Oh, really?
Okay. Faulty voting machines fueled efforts to overturn the results through political, legal, and ultimately violent means. Yeah. Like the Rudy Gazooty riots in Minnesota in 2020. This means they are planning to steal the 2024 election. Okay? Remember? The bank, a couple of my shows before talk about the bank robbery. When you're going to go and steal the bank and you set the escape and everything and you plan the whole thing out. This is it. This is it. This is Protect Democracy. It's a nonprofit organization to defame those people who point out the truth. Protect Democracy is a nonprofit organization based in the United States. It's a nonpartisan group. That, of course, is bullshit. Okay? When was it created? Protect Democracy was formed in November of 2016. 2016. November 2016. What happened in November 2016? No, the Red Sox didn't win the World Series. Football season was in view. What else? Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. Let me just take a bit of coffee because I just remembered. You won't believe it, but Donald Trump was elected president in November 2016. Really? What a coincidence. It's an anti-authoritarianism advocacy. Just off the cuff, can you guess who the one person in the United States who's been president is considered an authoritarian? The 2016, ready for this? In 2016, Protect Democracy was co-founded by Ian Basson, Justin Florence, and Emily Loeb, who served as lawyers in the White House counsel's office under
former President Barack Obama.
These are his guys and gals. In forming the organization, Protect Democracy's founders consulted with political scientists who later became members of the group's board of advisors, including Harvard University. No, not them. That communist organization. political scientist Steve Levitsky and Daniel Ziblatt. So, Obama's law guys create this whole program to constantly go after Trump. Wait, he hasn't even entered the White House yet, and they've already got a team to go after him. So what do I just give you? I gave you proof that Donald Trump's still president in documented writing. I gave you documented proof that they've been going after Trump before he even entered the frickin' White House. What are we getting to? Okay, what are we getting to? Treason is the crime of betraying one's country, especially by attempting to kill the sovereign or overthrow the government. Just like January 6th. Who was president on January 6th? 2021? Well, that was Donald Trump. And Donald Trump would have been reelected president, but they screwed with the January 6th joint session so that wouldn't happen. And therefore, occasion for war. It's known as casus belli. No, that's not the guy on Star Trek. I know that's what you were thinking. Is an act or an event that either provokes or is used to justify a war. And we are there, ladies and gentlemen. We are there. The actions of the Democratic Party for too long have led us to this. And that's why I say either there's going to be the great divorce or there's going to be civil war. If Trump wins the election and if the Congress is held by the Republicans, then Trump will be able to do his job. But like before, the Democrats tried to impede his progress in making America great and helping Americans. That's treason. They're anti-American. They believe that only they can be in power. They need to go away. Wake up and smell the coffee. How much shit are they going to pull on us? I'm done. I'm done with it. Sorry. Ever wonder if 20 million illegals are let into the country? Where does the food come from to feed them? I wonder if that demand of 20 million illegals to eat does that demand cause prices to rise? Is that part of this inflation program the Democrats are trying to do to put Americans out of wealth and out of our homes? Geez, maybe it's a good thing that the government gives every illegal a food card, a card for money, free health insurance and everything. What was the purpose of flying 2 million Haitians and Cubans into Republican districts like Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Alabama? What are the Democrats up to? We know that they lead the league in illegal immigration activity. More than 200,000 migrants entered the U.S. between January and August 2023 as part of the Cuban, Haitian, Nicaraguan, and Venezuelan program, according to documents obtained by the House Homeland Security. So let's see. Cuba is a communist country. Nicaragua is a communist country. Venezuela is a communist country. And Haiti is a country from outer space. We don't know who the hell's running that place. But we do know that these millions of people from these four countries are trained to be slaves and to sit back and let people shit on them. But they're coming to America and they're getting free health care, free driver's licenses, which they need in order to be registered to vote illegally. That's the purpose. These are 20 million voters, okay? If you really think Donald Trump's going to win this election with this whole illegal shit going on, you're crazy. But you can never tell. You can never tell if the people in these states stand up to support the law. Almost everyone in Laughlin, Ohio agrees on this. In the past year and a half, 3,000 plus immigrants from Mauritania and West Africa have streamed into the 1.2 square mile town, taking over apartment buildings, straining police and fire services, and flooding the sewer system. They don't have furniture, so it's probably just 2 queen-size mattresses on the floor, Doug Waymeyer, Laughlin's fire chief, told me. The newcomers, who have led to the doubling of Laughlin's population of 3,500, are mostly living in a handful of 4-story apartment buildings with 10 to 15 people squeezed into a 4-person unit. Why is it okay to have all these people in one apartment? Well, it's easier to collect their votes that they don't make, but their addresses do. See, that's why mail-in balloting was created. The purpose was for fraudulent elections. Okay, why? Because the stupid Americans don't know how to vote for anybody but Donald Trump. We dumbbells want freedom. Oh my God, we're so horrible. You're starting to hear the name of this guy. His name is Mark Elias. I've done shows on Mark Elias. I've already covered this before. I'm just covering it. Okay, Mark Elias works for Perkins Coie. Meet one mastermind of the 2020 election scandal, Hillary Clinton's lawyer. Actually, he's not Hillary Clinton's lawyer. He's the lawyer for Perkins Coie. He works for Perkins Coie. Perkins Coie is counsel of record for the Democrat National Committee, the Democrat Leadership Council, the Democrat Senatorial Campaign Committee, and the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee. Other political clients include most Democrat members of the United States Congress. It also represents several presidential campaigns, including those of John Kerry, Barack Obama, and Hillary Clinton. The group's political law practice was founded by Robert Bauer, who recruited Mark Elias and made him chair of the group in 2009. The state had not developed any uniform standards or procedures for reviewing signatures. They did have them. They knew what they were doing. In addition, election officials lacked sufficient training and skill to accurately compare signatures. This is the funniest thing. Did the signatures look the same? Most importantly, the law did not require election officials to notify voters that their absentee applications and ballots have been rejected. Do you know why? Because if they were phony, you weren't going to be able to get in touch with these people. They didn't exist. This was the plan to steal the election. And Mark Elias filed this lawsuit. Now, let me just point this out. In October, we sued Michigan on behalf of Priorities USA. What's Priorities USA? Oh, it's a nonprofit Democrat organization designed to do shit, and they wanted to block their unconstitutional signature matching process. Okay. Mr. Elias, please let us know in what federal court was it found to be unconstitutional? Oh, it wasn't? So in other words, you're full of shit. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. I've been asking you for 2 freaking years. Didn't get anything from you. Okay, so what company sued the state of Michigan? Oh, Democracy Docket at Perkins Coie. Oh, Perkins Coie has a nonprofit organization called Democracy Docket that the Democrats use to file fraudulent election lawsuits. Significant evidence exists that proved multiple Democrat actors paid by the Democratic Party to disrupt, discredit, and denigrate the integrity of the 2020 election. There is significant evidence of multiple actors in multiple states who manipulated voter registration rolls to facilitate election fraud through the use of mail-in ballots. 1. Democracy Docket. 2. GBI. GBI was an organization paid $5 million to go around into black communities and build up phony fake votes. And I covered this about a week or so ago in the last show I did, where I played the video that I hadn't seen until just recently of Rudy being in front of the Michigan people with person that signed an affidavit, sworn affidavit, of what she found. And what she found was proof that this is what they were doing. Now, why the hell didn't that cause that to be looked at? I was watching TV. This is about, I guess, I can't remember exactly when the time was, but the guy was saying that they're now getting tired, that black people are now getting tired of supporting Democrats after supporting them for 90 years. And I thought, wait a minute, 90 years? What happened 90 years ago to get blacks to start supporting the Democrats? So I start doing my investigation, and if you know me, you know how I find shit. I just follow the documentation and see what's, there's clues in everything. There's clues in everything. So I come to the conclusion that the purpose for the Great Depression was to destroy the economic gains of blacks in the United States. And let me tell you what was going on. So we had Democrats running the country into the toilet and into war until 1920, when Republicans won. And from 1920 to 1930, Republicans had the stock market go from like 60 to 380. There was no debts. The government didn't borrow any money. There was an income tax, but the tax was bringing in more money than they needed, so they cut income taxes. Interesting. The new tax code brought in more money than the government needed. That's so they could give it to other countries. See? So I'm going through this stuff, and I find this 1900 to 1930, and I've done a show on this. And it's the golden era of black entrepreneurialism. And from 1900 to 1930, blacks were working for themselves. They had businesses galore. They were making wealth for themselves, but they were Republicans, and they were voting Republican. And the Democrats are sitting there going,
What are we going to do? We can't get into power. We're going to have to do something to the blacks and get it back on the plantation.
the evil Democrats planned. So I'm looking at this stuff, and I come across these people known as eugenicists. And they're tied into the progressives, who gave us the 1913 tax code and all that shit. The progressives were Democrats and Republicans running the country into the toilet. I find this eugenicist guy, and he's the guy that made the statement that the stock market's probably going to crash because it's reached a plateau that it will never see again. 300. As I say this, the stock market is now, the Dow is at about 42,000. This is 300, and this genius said, oh, it's never going to go higher than that. And it gone from 61 to 300. We had a great run, a great economic run. Why? Because there was no inflation. No inflation. There was no borrowed debt. And everybody was making money, and things were well under Republicans. We can't have that. We're Democrats. We have to destroy the country, and we have to enslave a group of people. Otherwise, we'll go crazy if we don't have people to step on and kick in the ass and do all sorts of shit to. So I'm looking at this and saying, wait, why did the golden era of black entrepreneurialism end in 1930? What happened?
Oh, Mike, it was the Great Depression.
The Great Fake Depression. Mike, how can you say that? The Depression was fake. Look what it did for so many years. Yeah, what did the Depression do? Made a lot of people poor, especially blacks. And it got to the point where the blacks decided to give up on the Republican Party and take the enticements of the Democrats to buy them and put them into slavery, but they didn't say it was slavery. It was like a new slavery for Democrats. Okay, and of course they had the Federal Reserve Act And the 1913 Federal Reserve Act, which was passed 2 days before Christmas, I wonder how many people were on the floor for that. I wonder if they had a quorum. Do you know if they didn't have a quorum on December 23rd, 1913? If there was no quorum there, Federal Reserve Act is duty. The 1913 Federal Reserve Act is legislation in the United States that created the Federal Reserve System. Congress passed the Federal Reserve Act to establish economic stability in the U.S. by introducing a central bank to oversee monetary policy. No, that's not the reason why you created it. You created to screw with the American people, steal money from us, and send it over to Europe and your buddies. Because then money that goes over to Europe can come back and nobody can see it. And that's why all the Democrats own mansions after they've been in the White House. The Great Depression, the longest and deepest downturn in the history of the United States and the modern industrial economy, lasted more than a decade, beginning in 1929. Actually, it didn't start in 1929, but as you'll see, the Democrats like to cause declines in the stock market the year before an election. So the Democrats are trying to take over the country in 1930 and win the elections. And what they have to do is make Republicans look like duty heads, like they do all the time. Well, I come across this. Once again, Mike Wiley figures this shit out. Regarding the Great Depression, we did it. We're very sorry. We won't do it again. Ben Bernanke, November 8th, 2002, in a speech given at a conference to honor Milton Friedman on the occasion of his 90th birthday. In 2002, Bernanke, then a member of the Federal Reserve Board of Governors, acknowledged publicly what economists have long believed. The Federal Reserve's mistakes contributed to the worst economic disaster in American history. It was planned and done to destroy American wealth. And Milton Friedman, nice Jewish boy, Milton Friedman, a nice Jewish boy, came out in 1963 and said, hey, they did this on purpose. They did it on purpose. The Democrats did. The Democrats did. That was part of the plan to take over the United States. So, now we're sitting here waiting for an election. If we win on Friday, November 8th, because we're not going to know the results till November 8th. Of course, the guy in Arizona just said yesterday, we won't know for 2 weeks because we're fucking stupid. There's some bad Republicans in Arizona. And I think they need to visit the reservation. Because I know that there's quite a fury going on the reservations about supporting Donald Trump and getting involved. And it's time. They're Americans. Just because they worked a deal to have their own land, that's okay. That's the reservation. I have no problem with that. But they're Americans. Treat them like Americans. They're not illegals. They didn't cross the border to get here. Of course they did, but that was at like 560 BC or something when they came over from Russia and China and Asia. Came down through this little place called Alaska. Of course, I was up in Boston doing a 4-hour show from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And that show was going well until I opened up my mouth and live on the radio invited Hillary to come on up to Massachusetts. And she could run against me for the U.S. Senate race in Massachusetts. It got back to her. Tick! 2 months later, I was off the air and I was banished from radio. Yeah, I was banished from radio. Why? Because I'm the evil radio talk show host. I'm evil because I fight evil. That's it. I love you. Have a great day. Get out and vote. And get out and pray. We need all our help. God's going to help us, but He can't fight our battles for us. But He can give us the courage to do what needs to be done. Do it. Love you. Bye.